Hi, I'm Davy. I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Wrestling, where I review wrestling related things, all from the perspective of a fan, not an insider. So those of you who've watched my channel, you know I'm a huge belt mark. I love wrestling championship belts. I talk about them all the time. Well, I'm going to redo one that I did 5 years ago. I'm going to give you guys my top 11 favorite championships. Been 5 years since I did the last one, and since then a lot of new belts have been introduced. Some of them good, some of them bad. So, list change. Criteria before I get started. All of this is just based on my personal opinion of how I feel about these particular championship belts. These are simply my top 11 favorite championships. That's it. Has nothing to do with any of the prestige of them, how long they've been around, who held them, nothing. It's just how I feel about the looks of these belts. So let's get into this. At number 11, the WCW World Television Championship. One of my favorite belts of all time. I like that it is a throwback look to the what we call the Hogan 86 Championship, since he was the only one who ever held it. But still, it's very distinctly its own. A lot of people don't like it because it's very plain looking, but I am a big believer that sometimes less is more. Sometimes there is beauty in simplicity, and this is one of those times. It makes me laugh that this apparently was supposed to be the WCW Cruiserweight Championship, but for some reason they decided to go with the other championship, and the very first appearance it ever made on television, if you look closely enough, it did say Cruiserweight Championship on it. Then they put a sticker over it that said television, and eventually made one that just simply said television. A lot of people argue that its predecessor was better looking. I disagree. That one was a nice championship, but I prefer the floral padding on the plate versus the line plating, I guess. Either way, this one has sadly been kind of lost to history. I don't understand why every time WWE comes out with a new video game, they put all these old championships in there. This is never there. They've sold pretty much every WCW replica championship there ever was, except this one. If you want a replica of this one, your best bet is eBay. Somebody who bought it back when WCW was still a company. It saddens me, because this is a beautiful championship. And at number 10, this is going to anger some old school wrestling fans, but whatever. The World Heavyweight Championship. The original. Sort of. I actually like the version a little bit better than the WCW Big Gold Belt, as they called it. Only difference in the two was the WWF's version was curved on the main plate, so it was a little bit more form-fitting, looked better on the wrestlers, and it had a small WWE scratch logo at the very top that you could barely notice, especially on television. Either way, it was basically the same design, and I'm not doing small variation differences. Except in this case, I think the WWE one, just a little bit better, just because it fit people better. The other one, it was completely flat. Some people looked good on, some people it didn't. Either way, it was a classic, beautiful design that deserved its props, deserved its praise, and I'm giving it to it now. It's number 10. Sorry those of you who are angry that it's not higher up on the list, but it's my list. And at number 9, a fairly new championship, but beautiful nonetheless, the AEW Continental Championship. This is one of the reasons I mentioned this has nothing to do with prestige, because personally, it seems like a very afterthought title in use, but the belt itself is absolutely stunning. I like that it has both a throwback to the WCW Cruiserweight Championship, as well as it looks like it has similarities to the World Class Championship Wrestling or USWA Championship title. Either way, it was very beautiful. I love that they combined all these things to make one beautiful championship. The only thing that kind of throws me a little bit is the crown in the middle. I mean, I don't dislike it, but I feel like they could have put something better in there. It's continental, so maybe a globe of some sort. I get they did that because it was won and once a year defended through the Continental Crown Tournament, but I just feel like they could have done something better than that. But it doesn't detract me enough to say it's not a beautiful championship. Now, if they would just treat it like the championship it looks like. In at number 8, and I know some old school fans are going to hate me for this, that this is higher up, but the current WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I know, a lot of old school fans are going to be so mad that I would actually put this above the original one, but I do. The moment this debuted, I was like, that is really beautiful. I will agree with a lot of people that I believe the stoning on it could be a little bit different. Maybe make the stones red, add a little bit of color, but it's still beautiful. I love throwback designs where they look like old school designs, but very distinctly their own, and I love that this is just that. Like, they both have floral patterns, but this one very different. And whereas I used to love the eagle designs on championships, this one has lions, and I like that. It kind of reminds me of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship before it got unified. Again, my only detractor from this one is it's got custom side plates, and I'm not a big fan of the custom side plate era that WWE is doing right now. I know it's not going to stop anytime soon. I'm just, like I said, not a big fan of it. I think nameplates are better than a custom side plate. But again, that doesn't detract me from the fact that it's beautiful, and it's probably one of the most beautiful championships that WWE has come out with in a long time. Seriously, before this came out, I was always disappointed in their championships. In at number 7, the final version of the WCW United States Championship, the JMAR version. It was very similar looking to the Reggie Parks. The biggest difference was that Reggie Parks belt was a 5-plate belt, this was a 3-plate belt, and for some reason I just felt like this whole overall design looked better as a 3-plate belt. The side plates had no color, but you know what, I felt like it worked. And I've talked about this a lot. When it comes to United States Championships, I feel like they constantly overdo it with the United States flag. Like, especially in WWE, lately, its designs, it's all just a big flag on the plate. I kind of like that there is a flag to represent the United States, but it doesn't have to take up the whole plate. It's a little much when they do that. Not to mention the overall championship, the JMAR version was directly inspired by the Reggie Parks one, and you could tell that inspiration because it has a very similar design to the Reggie Parks Intercontinental Championship. This is not only one of my favorite belts of all time, but it's actually my favorite belt that WCW ever came out with. In at number 6, the NXT UK Championship. It's one reason I miss NXT UK. I've talked about this many times, and I'm going to talk about it again. I remember when this first debuted as just simply the United Kingdom Championship. We didn't know what was going to happen with that, if there was going to be an NXT UK, if this was now technically NXT's mid-card championship because they didn't have the North American title yet. But I remember seeing it and going, why is this not their world championship right now? Because at the time, it's the same shape as their logo championship, but it looks so much better. There's much more going on. And it's, of course, got the UK-inspired stuff with the, crest-looking lion and horse thing going on, but still, it was such a beautiful championship, and I couldn't believe, you have this in your disposal, and it's not even going to be as prestigious as NXT, just NXT UK. I remember thinking, it's really sad that the championship of your lowest-rung show is actually your best-looking championship, by far. And at number 5, I honestly didn't think this was ever going to happen, but the AEW Women's World Championship, their current version, their third one. Women's championships for the longest time really seemed like they had no effort whatsoever put into them. They always looked like championship titles that somebody in the company looked at them and said, hey, the women gotta have something, so have something by the end of the weekend. You could tell there was no real effort in any of their championships, and it was sad. Nowadays, things are different. Women's wrestling is being taken just as seriously as men's. Yet when AEW started, their first women's championship was not a fan of it. It reminded me of a very old school belt, from the 50s or 60s, with being a 7-plate belt, very small, very tiny, the main plate looking like an extra large belt buckle. Then they updated it, came out with one where it was a 5-plate belt, same overall design, but a little bigger, and it made it better. Made it to the point of I was like, well, it's good. Definitely not even close to ever being one of my favorites, but good. And then they changed it to this one. And I remember the moment I saw it, I was like, bravo. I normally would have been like, why are you going through so many different titles? But I was like, who cares? This is gorgeous. Some people criticize the lack of color because it's all gold and black, but I don't know, just for some reason, the way they do the gold and black on this one, it makes the gold pop. And I love it. This to me is not only the best women's championship in the game right now, but I think this is the best looking women's championship that anybody has ever come out with. In at number 4, the first WWE Undisputed Championship title. I know I went through 2 variations where there was not a black outlining on it, but either way, it was absolutely gorgeous. This was the one that they made when they first unified the WWF and WCW championships, and instead of carrying around 2 belts, they finally came out with one, and this came out. It was technically the last WWF championship for a minute, but man was it stunning. It was also the last time they would put an eagle on the front plate, which is sad. I like the eagles on the front plate, but it is what it is. I was very sad when this belt went away, especially because it was replaced by that gaudy, awful Spinner Championship. I was always hoping that once John Cena's reign was over, they'd bring it back. They never did. And I was also hoping that when they finally got a one belt for the current Undisputed Championship, that whereas the World Heavyweight Championship was a clear throwback to that one, that the Undisputed Championship would be a throwback to this, but it was just another logo championship. This time with a gold backing. Either way, this is one of the best belts that WWE ever came out with. In at number 3, the WWF Intercontinental Championship. The one that started as Reggie Parks' version became JMR, when really the only difference between the two was the WWF logo wasn't red anymore, so whatever version you want to say it is. This is one of my favorite belts and always has been. I will admit, probably part of that is this was the Intercontinental Championship when I first started watching wrestling, so there's a nostalgia factor. Again, a lot of people complain that it's not very filled in. It's kind of plain, but again, sometimes less is more. Sometimes there's beauty and simplicity. Later, for a minute, Cody Rhodes had brought in one that was a throwback to this that had like a nugget texturing in the middle. I liked it, but I liked it better without the nugget texturing. I just do. Again, sometimes there's just beauty and simplicity. Number 2, the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. There's been a couple of versions, but that's, again, only slight variations. The biggest variation is now on the sides, instead of saying AEW, it's got custom side plates, which I'm hoping they change because they don't need to go down that road. But either way, this is such a stunning championship. I remember when it first debuted, and I was like, wow, that was better than I thought it was going to be. Especially because I had heard the rumors that it was going to be a throwback to the Mid-Atlantic North American Championship, which was a big, huge belt that I was not a fan of, just really old school. But I like that they did it in their own way. It's much more curved. There's a lot going on this one. Yes, this is definitely not a beauty and simplicity, but still very, very beautiful. I can only hope that when this one does finally go away, that they replace it with something just as beautiful, or at least close, unlike what WWE did. Which brings us to number 1, which if you watch my channel regularly, should be no shock to you, the WWF Winged Eagle Championship. Even though everybody's criticism is that it was not that big, so what? This, in my opinion, was the most beautiful championship that has ever existed. First of all, like I said, I like the whole lion thing that they got going on their World Heavyweight Championship now, but to me, there's just something about that eagle. There's something about an eagle as it is. It's a beautiful animal. The look of an eagle itself just screams prestige. It only had a little bit of color with the globe in the middle, but it was enough to make the gold pop. Not to mention, one thing I've also said in other belt reviews, to me the most important thing about a championship is that it looks good on the champion. Some championships, they look good on certain people, some they don't look good on others. This one looked good on everyone who had it. Even if it was held by people who couldn't actually wear it, only throw it over their shoulder. Still looked beautiful on them. They have never come up with a championship that was this beautiful. In fact, I remember when Cody Rhodes won the championship, there was rumors that he was going to do a throwback to this, and I'm sad it hasn't happened yet, but maybe it will. Either way, I can't see anything ever unseating the Winged Eagle Championship, as it is my favorite championship of all time. So there you have it. That's my wrestling review this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications for when I post new videos, and leave a comment I can respond to in my next comment corner. Tell me if you agree with my list. Tell me if you disagree with my list. Tell me your favorite championship. Tell me your least favorite championship. Love you guys.